Hey guys, welcome back to part 2 of my Philippines vlog. This time around, it's going to feature our trip to Boracay. We left on Monday and unfortunately our flight got delayed for maybe an hour, hour and a half, so that was kind of annoying, but the flight was literally an hour long, so we felt like we spent more time at the airport than we actually did in the air. Once we landed, we took several different kinds of transportation to get to our hotel. When we got off the plane, we rode on a bus to get to the jetty port, and from that jetty port, we took a boat to the actual island of Boracay, and then from that boat, we took another car to our resort. Our hotel was beautiful. The actual grounds of it was lovely. We stayed at Station 1. In Boracay, there are 3 stations. There's 1, 2, and 3. 1 is definitely more on the quiet side. 2 is where most people stay at. And then 3, it's a little bit slower over there. That first day we kind of just checked in, checked out the hotel, but also walked up and down the beach to kind of see what we were in for. After that, we finally got hungry and we decided to go to the wet market. And honestly, I was a little bit nervous going into this because we had to haggle for our food. And this is something I had been researching months prior to our trip, but it still made me nervous knowing I had to bargain for these fresh seafood prices. And you know, being a tourist, of course they're gonna try and gyp you, but I think me and Derek did a decent job. We ended up getting a good deal on the fresh oysters, and the crabs I feel like we could have done better, but you know what, it's okay. It all ended up really delicious. So basically, after we haggled for our fresh seafood, we brought it over to a nearby restaurant where you tell them how you want them to prepare it. They have a whole menu and it tells you the different ways they can cook it, and then they do it for you. So for the crab, we ended up doing a garlic and lemon butter, and then the oysters we just wanted fresh, and then we had a side of rice and we were good. And it was literally like $10 to get that all done. So it was a very inexpensive dinner and it was amazing. After that, we headed back to our hotel because we wanted to take advantage of the happy hour that was going on at the bar. So we pretty much just got some gin and tonics and drank by the beach. The next day, we had our breakfast every morning at the cabana, and that was so nice because we're literally like 10 steps away from the beach. And it was a beautiful breakfast every single morning. So after breakfast, I wanted to watch the Warriors game because they were playing the Cavaliers. I could not miss that. So the game was showing at 9 o'clock in the morning, Philippines time. So Derek and I found a bar and had some drinks and watched the game. That was a really fun way to start my day, is watching the Warriors in the Philippines, and they won. So after we watched the Warriors game, we finally took a dip into the water and it was perfect. The water was so nice. The sand was just as soft as I remembered. And then after that, I walked all the way over to Station 3. But before that, we decided to get some bottled water because we were really thirsty. Mind you, water can be a little bit of a tricky thing in the Philippines. It's much like Mexico where you have to be a little bit careful because the quality is a little bit different. And basically, Derek and I had bought a bottled water. And the place where we bought it from, you know, it wasn't 7-Eleven, but it wasn't a side street vendor either. It looked like, you know, a decent place to buy a bottled water. And we had been drinking the same brand the entire time, but unfortunately, we got sick. But we didn't know this till much later, so I'll backtrack into that later. But just know, on our way to getting lunch, we bought a bottled water. So for lunch, we ended up going to Sunnyside Cafe, which is a very highly recommended spot by my cousins. And it was a really cute, modern restaurant. They had several kinds of dishes there, kind of traditional, but also Filipino food with a twist to it. Now on the way back, Derek started feeling really icky. Like his stomach was hurting. Like I felt so bad for him. So this was probably around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we decided to go back to the hotel so that he could, handle his business. And he was probably in the worst pain of his life. I felt so bad. And me, I actually felt a little bit uncomfortable as well, but not as bad as him. And he was the one who drank the water more than I did at that time, but we still didn't put 2 and 2 together yet. So after I started feeling a little icky, I decided to chug some of that water bottle because I thought it would make me feel better. We weren't really sure what it was. And then not even 5 minutes after I chugged a large amount of that water, I threw up. So pretty much after that, we kind of concluded that our sickness was probably because that water was tainted. So we threw away that water bottle and basically slept the entire night. So it was not a fun night for us. So the next day was the second full day that we were there, and the next morning we felt okay. We didn't feel 100% ourselves. Derek still felt a little bit of, stomach tension. I just felt really sensitive. Like the smell of food was not appealing to me whatsoever. And so I really tried to pull it together because we were on vacation and I wanted to make the best of it. So we headed over to Jonah's and got these fresh watermelon drinks, and then we ended up swimming. And again, I didn't bring my camera, and this time it was because I wasn't feeling cute that day. I was not in the mood to be recording, but it was a really nice swim until I started feeling really gross again. Like the water just did not feel good on my skin. Just my body felt entirely sensitive, and so did Derek. So we only enjoyed the water for an hour, for as long as we could, but I'm glad we got to take one last dip in because the rest of the day I was asleep. We went back to the hotel because I wasn't feeling well, and I basically slept the entire day. I probably woke up to go pee and to drink some water, but that was about it. I didn't even eat 2 meals that day. I think I just had breakfast and that was about it. So that was kind of frustrating because again, we wasted another day in Boracay, but what can you do when you don't feel well? The next morning, I felt so much better after I had rested that entire day. So I made sure that we made the most of our morning because our flight wasn't until 5 o'clock in the evening. So I made sure that we woke up to have breakfast and we explored the island so much. We walked around and kind of got our little fix in on what we could have been doing the 2 days before that. So I'm glad we did that at the very least, and it was a really nice morning walk around the beach before we had to head back to Manila.